Welcome to the Monsters Among Us podcast. This is Season 2, Episode 7, The Ariel School Encounter.
Today we're looking at a really remarkable event, September 16th, 1994, near Ruwa, Zimbabwe.
Remarkable is definitely the word. We've got, 62 kids at the Ariel School?
That's right, aged between 6 and 12. And they all reported seeing, well, one or more silver craft.
Just descending from the sky and landing near the school. It sounds like science fiction.
It really does. And then you have the other layer, some kids describe seeing actual creatures.
Figures, yeah. Dressed all in black.
Exactly. And they claimed these beings communicated telepathically, gave them a message.
A message about the environment, apparently, which, scared them, caused tears.
Understandably so. It's quite a heavy thing for kids that age.
Yeah. The 14 writer Jerome Clark, he called it the most remarkable close encounter of the third kind of the 1990s.
High praise, or at least high strangeness markers. That's a really mysterious tone, doesn't it?
It does. But of course, you immediately think skepticism, mass hysteria, maybe just a prank.
Those theories are definitely out there, and they have been from the start. But, many of the witnesses, even today, they insist it was real.
It helps to know a bit about the school itself, Ariel School. It was an expensive private school.
Yeah, most pupils were from well-off white families, mainly from Harare. Give some context to the setting.
And the timing, mid-morning break, around 10 a.m.
Crucially, the adult staff, the teachers, they were all in a meeting.
So the kids were largely unsupervised when this supposedly happened. For about 15 minutes, the reports say.
Right. That lack of immediate adult corroboration is, well, it's a key factor in how the story unfolded.
Okay, so let's back up a bit. Before the actual school incident, there was other weird stuff happening in the sky over southern Africa, wasn't there?
Yeah, just a couple of days before, actually, there was this wave of UFO sightings reported.
Like what?
Well, the big one was this bright fireball that streaked across the night sky. Lots of people saw it.
ZBC Radio even put out a call for info, right?
They did, yeah. And they apparently got tons of calls. People were definitely buzzing about it.
So UFOs were kind of already in the air, so to speak. People were thinking about strange things in the sky.
Mm-hmm. Now, the skeptical take on that fireball is pretty straightforward.
What's that?
Likely the re-entry of a Russian rocket booster, specifically the Zenit 2 from the Cosmos 2290 launch.
Okay. So it breaks up, creates burning streaks.
Yeah.
Looks dramatic, but it's space junk.
Pretty much. That's the conventional explanation anyway.
But then you have Cynthia Hine, the local UFO researcher. She was reporting other stuff too.
She was. She mentioned other sightings around that time, like a daylight sighting, and even a trucker who claimed he saw alien beings, roadside encounter type stuff.
So whether it was rockets or something else, there was definitely a sort of UFO mania context building up.
It certainly seems that way. And you have to wonder how much that might have, primed the pump for what the kids at Ariel reported seeing just 2 days later.
Yeah, sets the stage, doesn't it? Okay, let's get to the main event, Ariel School. What did the kids actually see initially?
The core story, the consistent part, involves seeing one or more silver objects, disc-shaped usually.
In the sky, then coming down.
Coming down and apparently landing or hovering very low in a field near the school, an area with bushes, some trees.
Right, just off a playground.
Yeah.
And then the figures.
Then the figures, yeah. Accounts vary a bit. 1 to maybe 4 creatures, big eyes, dressed all in black. That description pops up again and again.
And they supposedly got out of a craft and came towards the children.
That's the claim. Approached them.
Cynthia Hines, she interviewed them pretty quickly afterwards, right?
She did, very soon after. And she was struck by how consistent the basic story was, even when she talked to them separately.
It's interesting. Reduces the chance they just, cooked it up together on the spot.
It's certainly a point proponents make. That consistency.
But the telepathic message, that's where it gets really, really strange. What was that about?
This aspect came out more, maybe more prominently in the interviews done later by John Mack.
The Harvard psychiatrist. He got involved a couple of months later.
That's him. Yeah, about 2 months on. And in his interviews, some children described receiving this, telepathic download, an environmental message.
Like what specifically? Do we know?
Some reported warnings like, something's going to happen, please to stop pollution. One girl apparently told Mac the beings felt humans were harming the earth, that we'd become too technologed.
Too technologed, huh?
Another child mentioned being told the world would end if we didn't look after the planet better. Quite direct stuff.
But you said this was more in Mac's interviews. Brian Dunning pointed out it wasn't such a big feature in the initial reports by Hind or the BBC guy Tim Leach.
That's true, though Hind did apparently report on the telepathic element later as well. But yeah, Dunning notes that discrepancy.
Why would that be? Suggestion during the later interviews, maybe? Mac had his own interests, right? Environmentalism?
That's the concern raised by skeptics. The delay, the interviewer's known interests, it could potentially shape recollections. Or maybe the kids processed it more over time. It's hard to say for sure.
But one thing the kids were sure about.
They were adamant it wasn't a plane. They seemed quite clear on ruling out conventional aircraft.
And Hind also noticed something interesting about their cultural backgrounds, didn't she?
She did. She observed that kids from different backgrounds sometimes interpreted it differently. Some apparently thought they might have seen tikaloshes.
Ah, the figures from local folklore. Like mischievous dwarf-like beings.
Exactly. So their cultural lens sort of filtered the experience. One kid sees an alien, another sees a creature from traditional stories. It shows how interpretation plays a huge role.
Fascinating. So how did the school react when 60 kids came running in saying they saw aliens?
Well, initially, the teachers were apparently dismissive, which, maybe isn't surprising.
Yeah, sounds like kids making stuff up.
But the story didn't just go away. The next day, worried parents started showing up at the school. And then ZBC Radio got hold of this story, reported on it. That's how Cynthia Hind heard about it and got involved.
Right. And then the BBC sent Tim Leach down.
They did. Just a few days after the event, he interviewed students, staff, and there's that quote attributed to him.
The one about handling war zones, but not this.
Yeah. I could handle war zones, but I could not handle this.
Yeah.
It really suggests he was deeply affected by what the children were saying, their conviction.
Wow. Then Hind did her interviews, got the kids to draw pictures.
Noting the consistency again. And then a bit later, Mac arrives from Harvard for his deeper dive, focusing perhaps more on the psychological and the message aspect.
And around this time, the counter-explanations start getting more attention, like mass hysteria.
Yes, that's a common go-to explanation for these kinds of group sightings, especially in schools. The idea that excitement, fear, maybe suggestion can spread rapidly through a group.
Like a psychological contagion?
Pretty much. It's been cited in academic papers looking at similar incidents, particularly in African schools, apparently.
Then there's just the simple idea of a prank. Could some kids have started it as a joke?
Always a possibility with children involved. It's hard to rule out completely.
Gideon Reed had that slightly odder theory, the puppet show idea.
Yeah, suggesting they might have mistaken performers, maybe from an AIDS awareness troupe or something similar, for aliens because of unusual costumes?
Seems a bit of a stretch, maybe, given the descriptions of a silver crast.
It does face challenges matching all the details, yeah. And then there's the dust devil theory.
A whirlwind. Could that explain a landed craft and figures?
Again, it seems insufficient for the specific details reported, but it's offered as a possible misidentification of something unusual happening in the field.
And people have also questioned the way the interviews were done, haven't they?
Absolutely. Methodological criticisms are important here. Hind interviewing kids in groups could lead to contamination, stories bleeding into each other.
Right. One kid says something, another agrees or adds to it.
Exactly. And Mac's interviews being 2 months later, well, memory is malleable. Plus, his known interests raise questions about potential, even unintentional, prompting.
But despite all these questions, all the skepticism, the witnesses themselves, many still believe it, right?
That's perhaps the most compelling aspect today. So many years later, many of them stand by their story. That 2014 Mail and Guardian interview.
With the witness who still fears they'll return, feels their presence. That's chilling.
It speaks to a profound, lasting impact. Whatever happened, it affected them deeply.
And Emily Trim's art exhibition in 2016, presenting her art as linked to the messages she received.
Yes, another example of how the event continues to shape their lives. And Za's interview in 2021, another former pupil recalling the bright light, the aliens.
They also appeared in that documentary, The Phenomenon, in 2020.
They did, several of them, talking about the experience and its long shadow.
But then just recently, a real curveball. Dowland's claim in 2023.
Yes, the Netflix documentary Encounters. He came forward saying he basically started it all.
Yeah, claimed he told classmates a shiny rock was a UFO, and it just snowballed into mass hysteria, that he orchestrated it.
A pretty major claim. If true, it potentially debunks the whole thing.
But there's a snag, isn't there?
There is. His 2023 claim seems to directly contradict what he himself said on camera back in 2008.
Where he described the UFO, the flashing lights.
Mm.
Seemed like a genuine witness account back then.
Exactly. So why the change of story? That inconsistency really undermines his recent confession, makes you question his motives now. It just adds more confusion.
So it leaves us kind of where we started, in a way. This incredible story from Ariel School.
62 kids, a silver craft, figures in black, this alleged telepathic environmental warning. It's got all the elements of a modern myth or maybe something more.
And a whole range of explanations. Actual ET contact,
Yeah.
mass hysteria fueled by prior sightings,
Oh.
misidentification, an elaborate prank gone wild.
Or Dallen's recent, though questionable, claim of orchestrating it. The definitive answer remains elusive.
But the one constant is the impact on the children. For many, it wasn't just a story. It was a life-altering experience they still carry with them.
It really makes you think about memory belief, how we process the unexplained, and maybe how easily a narrative can take hold, whether it's based on external reality or internal suggestion.
It's one of those cases that just sticks with you, raising more questions than answers.
Definitely. The Ariel School Encounter endures as a truly fascinating puzzle.
We've come to the end of the episode. Until next time, keep to the shadows. Some legends are best left undiscovered.